Welcome back. Okay, wow. Agalia is an absolutely stunning raid. Stunning. And the only Alliance raid I had done before this was the Crystal Tower. There's been a bit of an improvement from Crystal Tower to this. An absurd improvement. This raid content is exceptional. These bosses would not be possible in this format with, say, World of Warcraft's combat res system. Obviously, I bring up WoW because raiding in WoW has been the thing that's been my thing. But like, these would all be some of the best bosses in any tier. These bosses are incredible, and this is the first 4 bosses. Like, I'm here at the computer. I have just finished like the raid and then the whole questline afterwards, and I'm honestly just kind of a little bit stunned and blown away. But I do have a lot of thoughts. I have a lot of thoughts about how this is actually something that is possible. You know, previously obviously doing Pandemonium and stuff. That's one type of fight design. I'm really seeing how perhaps you could say this Alliance raid design is a little bit different. It makes use of the scale of the party quite well. Those sort of dance fight mechanics are extremely satisfying with this larger player count. It all plays into the combat res system. And then, yeah, like, coming from my perspective, like, I've just finished doing, the latest raid in World of Warcraft, so this is a very interesting comparison point as well. Right, okay, so the first thing I want to talk about is I want to talk about spectacle. And I'm going to talk about fight design, going to talk about lore as well, because the lore here is fascinating, and we've all been talking about what our theories are. But just on the topic of spectacle, and I don't know if this is something that they can do that maybe we just don't get as much of in WoW because they don't have it in the engine or something, but the spectacle is absolutely stunning. Stunning, like, even in the first encounter, as everything is changing around you. Just the fight room. It is immense. And then as you move up to fight Rhaegar? The sense of scale as you move, it's like literally just the size of the map that they have built. And then when you are there fighting on his hand, just like the Stormblood cinematic, seeing everything around you, the scale is mind-blowing. And I mean, a little bit to a lesser degree for the rest of it, just because of where they take place, but like overall, the scale, the spectacle is absolutely stunning. Even in the final boss, having that like little cutscene as a part of the scales mechanic. This is just absolutely stunning. It doesn't feel like I'm playing a group strategic puzzle. Now, I really enjoy a group strategic puzzle. Absolutely, like, at WoW raids, that's really what those feel like. But here there is a level of, oh my god, spectacle in these fights that elevates it. Yeah, it's like, sorry, this is so goddamn memorable. Stunned. So that's thing number 1 for Agalia. The sense of scale, you really feel like you're there. What a way to just get the word adventure and make you feel it. An incredible experience. So the next thing I want to talk about then is combat. I want to talk a little bit about fight design, which you're not going to find really that much of in the Pale Beyond, our video game, because it's time for seamless self-promo. Hey, narrative, survival narrative, RPG. We don't have boss fights, but we do have certain conversations and conversational mechanics that internally we do basically treat as a boss fight in terms of like, really just, designing the shit out of it. So look, we're also a game studio. Pale Beyond is the game that we are making. And if you want to help us out, you can check the game out over on Steam. And wishlists. Wishlists absolutely are the single most important thing for us, so we would very much appreciate any support that you would throw our way if you're interested. Certainly, if you like FF14 and you like, narrative games, I mean, if you like FF14, you can obviously deal with some text, so I think it'll be up your alley. Okay, promo done. Let's talk about these bosses. Man, okay, so we're going to go for the first boss. There's something about spatial reasoning that from, almost I'd say playing the other MMO, you almost get like detrained in because just how things work and the sorts of puzzles that are there. And it's funny because I think about a lot of the WoW fights that I enjoy the most or like find super satisfying. They are the ones where there is like movement happening in the boss room, where like that sort of thing actually matters. I've always found that stuff to be super satisfying, which I think certainly means that the first boss that we find in this raid is essentially tailor-made to what I find to be really, really, really goddamn cool. So the whole like moving, the moving of the platform with those hammers at the side, but where the platform is moving out from underneath you, like that's really cool. But what I love and what they constantly do is they layer so well. So the next thing is he does, you know, his big attack that's just going to kind of like, you know, wipe through the whole room. But you can't stand on the platform based on where it is now. You've got to stand where the hammers are going to knock the platform. Now, it's quite funny because we unfortunately got like a little bit of a scuffed group in our run through where you know, I guess like all being WoW raiders in our heads were like, okay, that's a wipe, and you know, we all, this is so stupid, I know, you know, zoop ourselves back, resurrect, and yeah, then we just spend like 5 or 6 minutes there watching basically the other two alliances with many deaths, very excruciatingly slowly clear out that boss. But just as a fundamental mechanic, that is so satisfying. And as for Elgar, man, that whole thing with the fingers, where, you know, you're getting the knockbacks, then you've got to, you know, position yourself to be knocked back into his finger, but then in the next one, there's going to be basically loads of bad in a few of the fingers, so you got to work out what finger to go into. Yeah, his mechanics are super cool. And then, where just me and all the guys completely start to lose our marbles, is the third fight. And again, the positional stuff, the spatial reasoning, right? You have the firewalls coming out. And then you're like, okay, well, she's going to appear in a few of the areas. She's going to blow the fire, so work out where the fire is going to be and go there. And then just even the things like, you know, looking at the boss's model to be like, where's the boss facing? All these things that, you know, they're just more important over here in this land, I guess. And I suppose just not having add-ons and timers. Then also trying to play, you know, your spec, but it's your first time in a fight. So it just feels like this humongous controlled disaster. But it's just so satisfying. And then, like, continuing on with her, you know, mechanics, like the fireballs that appear, and then, you know, she pushes them about the place. The sunspot mechanic. And the sunspot mechanic, it is just the spectacle. It's the spectacle, man. It just feels so much like a massive, epic boss fight. All of these feel like that. It's something about the way that they design these. I mean, consist, I guess, these like larger-than-life bosses with just really interesting mechanics. And I guess it's that thing, they really, you know, dance fights, pattern recognition, like that's totally their bread and butter as designers, as far as I can tell, right? And it's just like the level of confidence at which they design those mechanics. They work so well. And in your first time through, it just feels like such a beautiful, controlled disaster. So everyone's dying, you're getting your res debuffs and everything, and the fight's taking ages. But it's just such a big, fun mess. And it's also the sort of mess that then whenever people actually go and start to do it all right, it just feels like so satisfying whenever the dance clicks, right? And I guess that's it. You know, you can take a dance fight, maybe some people think that's quite rote and boring, but I guess you make them feel more complex. You make them then, in terms of sound and visuals, just feel so good. And then it's just an immensely exciting video game boss fighting experience. And man, then I've got to bring you to the final boss. Oh, the final boss. And like, I'm just looking, I've got my footage up here in the other screen. And there's so many things for this boss to talk about. I mean, number one, even, for me still, the whole looking at the boss model thing, it's like I'm so untrained with that. So, you know, working out. I mean, I think we called him something like Die Fireman and Die Blue Man, but, you know, come on, was it totally just a Die Hard Man reference? Thanks, Kojima. So, you know, even just that, to like work out, do I go in the blue? Do I go in the red? Oh, wait, I've got to go look at the boss model and see. And then seeing that happen for a few of the different mechanics, like the, the outward pulsating waves. Then you get into the next phase. And man, that next phase is, that's really cool. I mean, you got some of the basics, like, the cones that people drag around the place. But one of the things I found really satisfying was the 2-stage and then the 3-stage combo attack, where, like, say his first one's going to be like the, the big spread AoE, then the next one's going to be a knockback. So you're very much trying to, ensure you don't get like blasted into the wall, so you don't take any extra damage, you don't get blasted into more damage, just all of that. Really, really, really satisfying. And then, of course, he brings you into that bloody soul mechanic. Well, the soul mechanic is fine. It's the wait bit afterwards. Suffice to say, our group failed the way twice. Let's just say, some very frustrating noises happened in Discord. But then whenever it clicked and everyone got it, it's like, man, that like feeling of triumph. Then, of course, we realized we still had 40% of the boss's health, so, away we went for the rest of it. But, like, it's just something about the way they design these fights. They are just so satisfying. The balls, too. The falling balls. The falling balls that have got, like, the large AoE. But it's large enough and there's so many balls that, like, you really do have to track them. That's another quite fun mechanic. Feels great as arranged. So, if you're a red mage, hope you're at the right part of your combo for that one. And even actually just that, the amount of deaths that were happening everywhere were actually quite satisfying, because it's like, finally, oh yeah, I'm using Veres and stuff. And, yeah, man, I really like red mage. I love red mage, actually. It's so fun. So, as for bosses, and this is, just coming off having played through Sepulchre of the first ones in WoW. For Sepulchre, I would say my number 1 boss fight there is Anduin. I'd say my number 2 boss fight is, like, Halondrus. Then, I'm really liking the likes of, say, Zymox. And in fairness, Sepulchre of the first ones is, like, it is a great raid. It really, it is a great raid. The start of Zoval's cool because it's more unique. But then as you get to the back half of Zoval, like, I sort of found that less interesting. But the thing that really, like, hit me is, in terms of a, like, whoa, this is fucking video games. Like, the spectacle, the scale. The FF team absolutely are doing more spectacle and scale than they're doing in WoW. And I think if there's a major lesson for Warcraft here, it is like, man, that spectacle. I'm fighting the first boss. All this shit's getting rebuilt. I'm sucked up onto Relgar's, hand. And, like, I feel tiny. The size of that statue. And Blizzard, we know they can make awesome environments. I mean, some of Internal Uldir was really cool. Internal parts of Sepulchre, the first ones, are really cool. They can make these awesome environments, but there's just something about integrating with the fight. It's maybe why I liked Halondrus, because, like, it had that movement going on. It had, like, that aspect of physicality. That's, like, why I really enjoyed that. And I just think it's a really big lesson that, even if, and these do have great mechanics I love, but even if they didn't have those incredible mechanics, the sheer spectacle of the fights would actually carry so much of it from an experiential point of view. And then, I mean, man, the music. Oh, the music is so good in this raid. Of course, I love it when they're bringing in the vocals. Compared to what I'm used to, and maybe it's the sort of thing for, like, a Final Fantasy person. They're like, this is just how we do it over in FF land. But, I'm always used to, like, very, straight orchestral, which, by the way, I do actually like. But here, just consistently with this game, the mixing it up is just so fun. So, suffice to say, and I think I could basically speak for everyone else in our group, we all finished this just beaming. We're just so happy. And, like, of course, I'd finished MSQ just, like, a few hours earlier. So, I was feeling in a good mood anyway. But to then go and see this and, like, just experience those fights, man. Yeah, I cannot wait to go back in and do this again. I mean, I want to see way more of, I don't want to spend, because it was for Relgar and the other one, like, those times where, like, we just thought, oh, it's a wipe, so let's res. And then, you're just sitting there for ages, looking at other people doing the mechanics, being like, man, this would have been faster if we just wiped and went again. But, whatever. I I just need to go and go and go. And then the gear. Oh, the gear rewards are so nice. The gear rewards are so nice in here. I absolutely will be getting the caster. I mean, I want to get all the sets, but definitely the caster set. So, God, incredible. Now then, let's talk about the lore. Okay, the lore. Because, you know, you're kind of thinking the 12 are primals, or that's one of the theories floating around. They're making it very clear that the 12 are not bloody primals. And there's even things like Derek. So initially we thought that Derek was, is it Oshun? The Wanderer, right? We thought that he was just that guy in disguise. You know, a bit like, you know, Odin walking around, you know, wandering in disguise. But no. Certainly, though, based on what you see later on, the Oppo, that's him. That's the Wanderer, the Vagrant. So, and it's something they like to do. Of course, Alpha. What does Alpha do? Alpha, you know, leads us into Omega. We've got the Black Cat from Alexander. That, of course, is, you know, pivotal to, you know, that whole thing. So, you know, they like to do that. And, you know, these little familiars, these little creatures, that is how the 12 like to disguise themselves. And then the way that they've done this with the 12, such that the explanation for so many of the religions in this world are those times where like a calamity has created etheric disturbances and stuff, so people, you know, they've been able to catch glimpses. So I actually think that's just a really, really, really fun bit of world building. And then the thing to think about is, you know, did these guys exist in the Ancients' time around Elpis? No, I don't think so. And there's kind of talk of ascension going on, isn't there? And you know, as the characters go through this, we're beginning to think like, oh no, these gods, they come from, you know, oh no, this era. No, earlier this era. Well, I forget where this bit of lore comes from, but it's something about the very first era, like before the first calamity, where it's like a sort of era of gods and stuff. Like where, I think the myth anyway, is that is where the 12 walked the earth. So at this stage, I'm fairly sure that they are like ascended beings from before the first calamity. That's what I think's going on. And then I suppose it's interesting, you know, now that Heidelden's gone, maybe there's more stuff going on here. They've certainly, the 12 themselves have set it up that, you know, we don't know what's going on. We don't know what their plan is. Why they decided to just pretend to be our enemy, right? And then just, you know, fight us. Only to reveal that, you know, hey, no, we're not primals. We are divinity. We have rules. So now we just don't know where that's going to go. But yeah, overall though, I think this is clearly stuff that, well, it's clearly stuff that Emmett Selk knew. So I'm like thinking, well, why does he want us to find this out? Is it because as Azim, it's our duty as he would see it? It's the right thing for us to do? Or is it a case of Emmett Selk, you know, really just thinking about breadcrumbs for us? Maybe, you know, he knows that what he fought to save he can't have, and you know, he's going to go do his thing in death, you know, but it just seems like he would like the idea of us doing something, right? So I'm kind of wondering what that is. I'm wondering how the 12 just come into all this. They've opened such a can of worms. They really have. A massive can of worms. Like, because if the 12 are true deities, and we know that then true deities, you know, that like they're not summoned beings, they're not primals. What does that mean? Like, what does that mean at a fundamental sort of a fundamental level for the state of the whole universe here? And certainly the implications of that are then interesting. I mean, I then think like, okay, so these 12, they get to appear here, right? In the source. What about in the reflections? What's going on there? Could they have had beings like that? I mean, we see Bismarck, you know, obviously a primal, over there in the first. So how could that work? What would the implication of that be? What are these deities? What is this ascension thing? Could someone ascend? Who knows? I mean, certainly there's aspects of things close to Greek myth that they're getting at. I mean, obviously, if you look at some of the architecture and stuff, you know, yeah, of course. I mean, I even then was thinking about, you know, Elpis, how does this connect? There's just quite a lot of Greece. I mean, even, you know, old Charlian's basically Athens. So man, yeah, this whole like raid is an experience I just loved. And then just actually, you know what, I'll grab the timeline here of my, you know, kill. So I think it was practically, yeah, it was like 40 minutes. I've just checked. It was 40 minutes of story that happened afterwards. And that was really interesting story. It was building up some characters, letting us know who this Derek guy is, taking us through the lore. It's just such a nice, complete package. And then I could just like sit down for an evening and like experience these two things. It just solidifies that thing of like, oh yeah, patch day is going to fucking slap. And I know this is almost getting out of the bounds of purely just like a raid reaction video, but man, hey Blizz, this is a lesson for you guys. You gotta have your patch day fucking slap, man. And sure, it means that I've done the story and it's not going to be paced out. Well, the nice thing is, you know, over the next few weeks, we're going to get Alpha, we're going to get Tataru's Grand Endeavor and those things. But it does mean that, like, I remember today. I remember the day I played patch 6.1 because the MSQ was there. I sat down, I played it in like 1.5 sittings, and I was totally enthralled. And then the raid was there. I just sat down, I did, you know, the Alliance raid, and it was just like, bam, oh, I'm enthralled. And it's just there as a great experience, and one that obviously for this, I'm going to keep on doing because the gear that I get looks gorgeous. So, yeah, what a cherry on top of today. What an incredible raid. And, you know, like, Asphodelos, brilliant, too. I think because of just the sheer wow factor that this raid tops Asphodelos for me. Just because, you know, for me, like, I'm not a mythic raider. I'm not going to be doing, I mean, I do ultimates because, like, whoa, that's cool, but I'm not going to be doing them as, like, you know, big, sweaty, super competitive gamer. I'm a very experiential person, right? Like, I want the experience of the thing. That's why I play the game. And, you know, for me, that generally means if it's easy mode, then for me, my gameplay won't match the story. So it won't be as good an experience. If it is, you know, like grinding your knob and sandpaper difficult, well, then that's just going to be frustrating. But there's just this nice balance of difficulty where what's going on screen, you know, the thing that you're playing just matches the story, matches all the themes, and that's when it clicks, and it's awesome. And I've got to say, and I've said this in this channel a few times before, the combat res system of Final Fantasy XIV is utter fucking genius. Because it means that in Savage raids, you can't have lots of deaths and, you know, hit all the checks you need to hit. But it means in a situation like this, like Blizzard could never do this in LFR. They could never do an LFR fight like this with the combat res system in World of Warcraft. But the combat res system here lets them do mechanics that just fucking kill you. These bosses don't feel gimped. They feel like these full, magnificent spectacle fights that are punishing. And they're just so cool. And the body count on some of our attempts was immense. And yeah, does it mean the game's like a little bit easier if we can then just go and, you know, res our way through it? Sure. But actually it means that, you know, I feel satisfied, like I accomplished my goal today. But the next time I go in to continue to, you know, get gear, I'm going to be better. And eventually, maybe 4, 5, 6 weeks, people will be doing these dances like clockwork, and it will be a beautiful thing. And the fights will be way faster. It just has a great little curve designed into it, doesn't it? Now, that said, I mean, I don't know, like, if they were ever to do, like, a Savage of these or something, that would be, like, really cool. But, I mean, that's just not in the format, is it? So, yeah, look, I'm absolutely enamored. Look, this is the first Alliance raid that I have done since the Crystal Tower. I need to be very clear on that. The Crystal Tower, like, when I did it, it was just, like, you know, it was a cakewalk. Total cakewalk. But, man, this was, like, yeah, there was deaths, there was, everything. Yeah, wow. And people have told me that Evilise is something I need to do too, because it was really hard. And Evilise was even brought up as a comparison to this, You know, I think Yoshi P was kind of joking about being like, oh yeah, we may have done another Ivalice again, you know, get ready for a few deaths. He was certainly right, and I'm bloody glad that that the team did. This is just incredible content, and it's nice to have a video game just leave you beaming. And that's it. I don't think I have any other big high-minded words. This, like the MSQ video, I think was just a big old gush, because tell you what, patch 6.1 is following up an incredible expansion with just absolutely incredible content. I am so excited for what this team has got to come. So that's it for me. If you want to support us, you know, you can check out The Pale Beyond on Steam if you want to support the video game that we're making. Your wish lists are very much appreciated. And, you know, they tickle the Steam algorithm. And on the game, we will have a few more things in the next month. Yes, the game team have been super busy. And, I mean, they had one delivery yesterday, another delivery in 2 days, like milestone deliveries for, you know, various different builds and things. So, you know, things are happening. Anyway, you can check that out if you want to support us. Thank you for watching today's video. I hope you are loving patch 6.1. And I'll catch you in the next one.